I had come up to Tullahoma and danced for a few years. I enjoy the traditional dances and I enjoy wearing some of our traditional regalia. And I wanted something more traditional that my Chickasaw ancestors would immediately recognize. For me, shell carving is a way of doing that. Connecting back to my roots and yet representing in a modern day society who I am and where I come from. Chokma, my name is Howard Thompson, and I'm a Chickasaw shell carver. I started looking at the shells, the ones that are currently in museums, and examining the way they look, the way that maybe they had carved the designs. There are some excellent books out there that have lots of good pictures of Southeastern iconography, the way that our ancestors chose to portray the life around them. Our ancestors, I learned from studying, used a shell that's called a lightning whelk shell. It's the common name for it. There are a lot of different Latin names for it. Bisicon sinistrum, Bisicon perversum, Bisicon contrarium, and they all indicate that it is a left-handed shell, that it spins the opposite way from all the other whelk shells. And what's good about that is that it happens to spin in the direction that we dance out at Tullahoma when we dance our traditional dances. I look at it as a spiritual connection with us because it connects with our dance. I start with a shell like this. You then sand down to make it smooth. I use a big belt sander. Ancestors probably used sand as sandpaper. I got a Dremel and I began cutting out some rough blanks, some shapes that I could use to recreate the gorget that my ancestors used. I don't know how they did that with, I guess, very sharp rocks or other pieces of shell, but they carved this out again by hand without using any power tools. And I'll take my pencil and I'll start drawing. So I'll sketch out sometimes a grid, a circle, or a regular rectangular grid, and I'll try and begin drawing what I want the ultimate shell to look like. I might recreate Spider Carries Fire, one of our traditional designs, or I might do a rattlesnake, or I might do a fire symbol or a sun symbol. For cutting, I use a couple of different drill bits on my Dremel. I'll carve over all my marking, so then I'll take India ink and coat the entire surface of the shell. Just looks black. I don't try to color between the lines. I don't try to fill in just that little bit. I just coat the whole thing. I let it sit a day, 2 days, let it dry thoroughly. And then I use some wet dry sandpaper. I run it under the water in the sink and I go over the entire surface gently. I use a real fine, like a 400 grit sandpaper, and it leaves the ink in all the cut places so the design pops out, but it removes the ink that's higher up. So it leaves you with a pretty design, something that's real easy to see. What sparks my passion about shell carving, I feel connected. I felt that when I first started coming to Tullahoma and dancing. I feel a spiritual connection where Chickasaws gather and we celebrate those traditions. And I feel a connection with my ancestors when I do the shell carving. When I produce something that someone else looks at and says, boy, I like that, I would wear that. It makes me really happy. I feel like I'm providing something to other Chickasaws that will give them the same connected feeling that I have.